Hello everybody, welcome back. And if you're new, my name is Chris. Thank you for clicking on that thumbnail to see tonight's video. I am going to be doing a two-part series, Hidden Gems and Underrated Fragrances. And since I have so many hidden gems and underrated fragrances in my opinion, I'm going to divide it into two parts. Tonight's video is part one, ambers, patchoulis, tobacco-y fragrances, spicy fragrances. I've got a big mix and match. I've got high-end fragrances and fragrances that are very affordable. And since I have so much ground to cover, I'm just going to dive right in. I'm going to start the list with a couple of underrated vanilla fragrances, in my opinion, underrated and hidden gems. The first one is Spice and Black Vanilla by Cremo. If you are not familiar with this brand, they typically make shaving products for men, but they also make really good fragrances. So far I have two different fragrances from Cremo. This one is the more vanilla-based fragrance. This is a spicy vanilla. The notes are bourbon, vanilla, cardamom, and vetiver. And the cardamom, or the spicy aspect to this, really kind of smells like chai tea. This smells like a chai tea vanilla fragrance. I don't get a whole lot of vetiver until really in the dry down. It's really not very sweet, and it's fairly linear, but it is a gorgeous, creamy, warm, spicy vanilla that is, and did I mention, I think it's like $20 or $22. It is a little bit on the shy side. It's a eau de toilette, so it's not a powerhouse. It does remain a little bit close, so it is more of an intimate fragrance, but a gorgeous, underrated vanilla fragrance in my opinion. Next up is a fragrance I got at Urban Outfitters, and it is called Noir de Stille. The lights are pretty bright. You might not be able to see the label. But another cheapie, another really inexpensive fragrance. This is a coconut ambery vanilla fragrance. I think this has black coconut. It has vanilla whiskey and amber. And if you are not familiar with black coconut, the only reason I'm familiar with black coconut is that I have about 300 fragrance oils and essential oils in my basement because I used to make a ton of soy candles. I don't do that as much anymore, but I still have all my fragrance oils. And black coconut is one of them. Black coconut to me is not as green. It's a little bit different type of green. It's a little bit richer. It's a little bit darker. It's not as green and fresh. And so the coconut, that darker coconut mixed with amber, mixed with a whiskey, bourbon, vanilla, gives us this is just another really warm, cozy, yummy, softer vanilla. Again, I have a couple of these fragrances from Urban Outfitters. The good is that they're very inexpensive. The bad is that they are very, very light. They're not heavy hitters, so you have to really kind of overspray or reapply. But this is just a really sweet, vanillic, boozy amber with a nice little coconut touch. And I get around 2 hours with this, 4 hours if I really overspray and use a body cream. But I think for the price and for the scent, it's really kind of underrated, hidden gem, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about this. So as long as you can tolerate a light wearing scent, I think this is a real hidden gem. So for my two underrated hidden gem clean fragrances, I have a really affordable option, and then I have a luxury fragrance. The first one is the affordable option or fragrance that I found accidentally about a month ago at the mall. I was poking around at the mall. I went into Free People, and of course, as per usual, I wandered over to the fragrances and the cosmetics and the candle area, and I found this little gem, and it is called, I think it's called Lodge. Yeah, it's Lodge 1809, this cute little guy right here. And this is a perfect clean fragrance for the colder months. This is a very warm, spicy, sweet, creamy fragrance. This has Palo Santo wood, this has cloves, There is vanilla, black pepper, and patchouli. But what it smells like to me is I get a clove pound cake, like a toasted clove pound cake. It is really, really nice. It wears kind of light on me, but I can get at least 4 hours on this. I have been loving this in these colder days. We have had a real cold snap here. This is a great fragrance to wear with a chunky, turtleneck sweater, something warm and cozy and comforting. And I love this, particularly if you like clean fragrances. Even if you don't care about what's in your fragrance, this smells really, really good, particularly if you like vanilla, spices, and cloves. So the other fragrance is a luxury clean fragrance brand. I have spoken about it briefly in one of my videos from last month, and it is from the House of St. Rose. And this little hidden gem is called Vigilante. Now, the House of St. Rose is a luxury brand that is rooted in nature. The creator of this line has a background in fashion and started this line because she had a very, very difficult time finding a luxury, high quality fragrance that were clean and consciously made. So she came up with the brand St. Rose. St. Rose is the patron saint of gardening. So reverence to nature is a big part of this. Now, I did the entire discovery set, and they have a bunch of fun names in the discovery set, and I actually thought I would be buying a full bottle of Gypsy Cowboy or Desert Nomad, but after I tried the whole discovery set, my favorites were Vigilante, Circa 91, and Juliet in White. And what I didn't know at the time is that this little hidden gem might be a hidden gem in I think the fragrance community in general, but it was not overlooked when it came to awards. This was actually a finalist in the 2021 Best Indie Fragrances. So that's pretty amazing that it not only was a finalist, but it's also a cleanly formulated luxury brand. The creativity that went into making this fragrance, which is made of recycled and upcycled materials. This has upcycled rose oil. Basically, they took the water that's typically discarded when you make rose essential oil, they took that water and they concentrated it and they distilled it and they concentrated and they distilled it again and came up with an essential oil that smelled very, very different than the original rose oil water that is a byproduct after making essential oil. So once it's concentrated and distilled and concentrated, there are a bunch of different characteristics that are acquired from this fragrance. So once it goes through all that distillation and concentration, what the end product is completely different than a typical essential oils oil. It has a lot more different characteristics and facets. It's a little bit smokier. It has more fruity facets. It's a little bit spicier. This also has cedar wood atlas oil, which is upcycled. So basically they take the shavings and the dust. When you make, or when people make furniture that's usually discarded, they take that dust and the shavings and then they distill that and they concentrate it and they further distill it and then they concentrate it and then they come up with essential oil for that, which has some, tobacco-y facets. It smells completely different, but still has a woody base, but it has more leathery aspects. It has more fruity aspects. It's a little bit, I think it's a little bit more, it has an apricot note to it. Basically, it smells completely different. And then all of the sandalwood they use for their products, they get from a farm in Australia, which is 50% indigenously owned. So there's a lot of thought that goes into this. This is, even though there is rose and cedar oil and sandalwood in this fragrance, it has this beautiful, warm, rich, slightly spicy, slightly fruity, slightly tobacco-y aroma. It has a little bit of cypress in the beginning and bergamot. It's very fresh, but then you get that beautiful kind of this plummy, sweet, fruity, tobacco-y rose with this gorgeous, leathery, apricot-y wood that's very creamy and soft in the dry down. This actually is a very, very long lasting fragrance. I think out of all their fragrances, this one lasts all day. I can get 6 to 8 hours out of this one. Incredible fragrance, completely, I think, underrated in our little fragrance community, but certainly not overlooked when it comes to awarding fragrances for their merit and ingenuity. So a big love of mine. If you want a clean, consciously made fragrance of luxury quality, this is absolutely a gem, in my opinion. The next one, in my opinion, used to be a completely underrated and hidden gem coffee fragrance. However, I have started to see this on a couple of Instagram posts, and a couple other people have talked about it on YouTube, including my friend who gave me the sample when we did a sample swap. Veronica from Veronica says, and that is my beloved Coffee Addict by Theodoros Kalatonis. This is a gorgeous coffee fragrance. There are other coffee fragrances, and I have other coffee fragrances, but this one just really appeals to me. It is not a straight up black coffee blast to the face. This is a sweet, slightly chocolatey, vanillic coffee with a touch of caramel. So to me, it smells like you just made this really rich, decadent cafe mocha. You swirled in a little bit of caramel syrup, and then you put a dollop of vanillic creamer or vanillic whipped cream on it. This is just, oh my gosh, so good. And I'm glad to see that it has not stayed a hidden gem or an underrated fragrance for long. And one of my subscribers went to order this, I think a couple weeks ago, and it was actually on sale for something crazy like 33 euros, which is amazing for this gem of a fragrance. The next category are hidden gem and underrated tobacco fragrances. The first one is called Tobacco. Yeah. I have spoken about the Vanille, or his vanilla fragrance, in a couple of my most recent videos. I think I'm going to get the entire line because I have had a lot of luck with his fragrances so far. He's 2 for 2. I'm 2 for 2 with this house. This is a pretty straightforward, kind of like a sweet cherry tobacco with a little bit of a cinnamony dusting or a cinnamon sweetness. This smells very similar to Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille. That one is a little bit more leafy. It's not as sweet. This one is a little bit sweeter, has a slight cherry note, and it's got this like cinnamony sugar dusting. It's lovely. Tobacco Vanille is a little bit stronger, but this one has pretty decent longevity. I think I get around 6 hours with this one. Completely unisex or gender neutral if you like tobacco-y type of fragrances, and I think it's fairly easy on the pocketbook, maybe, you know, moderately priced. This one, I think I got $80, between $80 and $90 for a pretty large 3.4 ounce bottle. So in my opinion, a big hidden gem and underrated fragrance by Frank Boclet, Tobacco. My next fragrance, I do not believe it has any tobacco in it, but I get a tobacco-y, spicy hookah vibe. So I'm going to add it to this category. I've only spoken about it one other time in a video, gosh, way back in the beginning of the year. I think it was my spicy fragrances. It is by Berdouze, and this is called Masai Mara, which is, Masai Mara is a place somewhere in Africa. I think it is a wildlife refuge in Kenya. So this is a warm, spicy fragrance that is supposed to take you to this warm area in Africa. It has bitter orange, dried fruits, plum, cinnamon, resins, patchouli, vanilla. And so these notes come together to me to give it this kind of this sweet, warm, spicy, tobacco-y hookah vibe. This is gorgeous. It almost has a little bit of a rooibos tea in the background. It's a little bit earthy, but not earthy like a dirty earthy, like dirt. Some teas, like rooibos tea, sometimes it can kind of smell like dirt. It doesn't quite get there, but it just lends this really nice earthiness to this fragrance. It's lovely. Those dried fruits, the orange, the plum give us this really nice warm sweetness, and to me, for that reason, this is a fragrance that I like to wear when it's cold. It's just super comforting and lovely. So that is my second underrated gem in the tobacco category. Next up is what I'm going to call my underrated and hidden gem patchouli fragrance. I spoke about this in my September pickups, I believe. This is called Misfit by the House of Arquiste. I have a couple fragrances by this house that I love, Architects Club and this one. And I went down to Houston over the summer and went to this enormous specialty shop on the north end of Houston that had every single fragrance you could imagine. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of niche fragrances. And I went around this shop and smelled all day, and this one was the winner. This one is absolutely gorgeous, and Picky Pat loved this one as well. This one, I didn't know at the time, I picked it up, but I didn't know at the time, this one actually won the Fragrance Federation's #1 indie fragrance of 2021. So even though I don't think I've heard a single person on YouTube talk about this fragrance, it actually is highly appreciated in the fragrance world. So this one is just a gorgeous fragrance. It's very warm. So what I smell the most in this is patchouli, it is resinous, and there is labdanum in here. So it's very warm, slightly smoky, a touch leathery, and a touch earthy. But there are some aromatic notes at the top that kind of bring it just this really nice freshness that keeps it from being too dark, too deep of a fragrance. There is carrot seed in here. There's lavender, and I think a little bit of angelica that gives it a nice kind of a sweet greenness. And then there's musk and rose. This is not an overly rosy fragrance. It is way in the background, and it's a rich, dark rose. This is a touch sweet, I think, from, I believe there's tonka bean in here, but it is absolutely not a gourmand. And this one is a really strong fragrance. Full day, like 6 to 8 hours from this one. One of my friends reached out to me, got a sample of this, and after I think I talked about it in my pickups from September, I want to say, and she absolutely loved it. So fabulous, completely underrated hidden gem, particularly if you love patchouli. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is a must try. So the next category are my underrated ambers, and I'm going to start the list with one of my favorite fragrances, probably my favorite amber right now, and it is by Galavant, and it is called Istanbul. This is a gorgeous amber that just doesn't get a lot of love in the fragrance community, and I don't know why. This is just a beautiful amber, and in my opinion, if you're an amber lover, I think it would be hard not to like this. This is a sweet amber, but it has some spicy notes and some aromatic notes. I think there's cardamom, but the cardamom, in my opinion, is barely noticeable. It's not heavy on the cardamom. It's not overly spicy. It has some lavender. It's not an overly aromatic fragrance. I think the lavender just gives it a little bit of freshness, keeps it from being too heavy. It's a light amber. It's a sweet amber, but it's also a light amber. I think the lightness comes from those more aromatic notes, the geranium and the lavender, because there's tonka in here. This is a sweet amber, no doubt, but the other notes kind of balance it. This is gorgeous. I brought my mother a decant over the summer. My mother is one of the pickiest fragrance noses that I know. I've made her dozens and dozens of decants. Nothing, she hasn't liked anything. Things I thought she might like. And I brought her a decant of this over the summer. She absolutely loved it. I bought her a bottle for her birthday. She wears it every day. She wears it out. She says she gets all sorts of compliments. And when I gave her the decant, I could smell her, and when she would spray it, I could smell her across the room all day. So this is a little powerhouse right here. I think it has great longevity, great projection, a beautiful, underrated hidden gem amber in my collection. The next hidden gem and underrated amber, in my opinion, is by Theo Cabanel, and it is called Barcane. This is another, in my opinion, easy amber to wear. It is very different from Istanbul. This one has more spices. This is smokier. This is more incensey. It's more woody, and it has a little bit of an oud note in it. So overall, slightly warmer. I would say this is a warmer fragrance. The Gallivant, the Istanbul, I definitely would wear in the summer, no problem. This one I would not wear in the summer. This one's a little bit heavier, a little bit richer, those notes. Yeah, you've got the myrrh and the labdanum. Gives it a little bit of a leathery warmth. There is also curry and cumin in here. And I sampled this first, but had I looked at the notes, I definitely wouldn't have blind bought this fragrance, because curry and cumin, those are kind of warning, it's like warning signs, but you can barely detect them individually. So it's just a nice, spicy, resinous, incensey, woody, amber fragrance, which I think is a great hidden gem. So there they are, all lined up in the mantle, fragrances that made my part 1, hidden gems and underrated fragrances. Thank you to everyone who supports me. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.